Egg. Egg. Egg.
City carved a silhouette on the ocean after dark, over the lonely and the holy and the red blood beating hearts. Up from the dirty black water, a shadow void of form raised itself out of the river, and it climbed upon the shore.
Egg.
Neon on the blacktop, there's a gentle rain downtown, a shadow pooling underneath me as it follows on the ground. Kissed you when I saw you, stared deep into your eyes. I meant to say I love you, but instead I said goodbye. Shadows in the city, I'm a stranger to myself, on these streets of someone else. Shadows in the city, like a demon in the dark, come to tear us apart. Neon city, downtown. Neon city, downtown. Neon city, downtown.
Egg.
Neon city, downtown. Neon city. For all my good intentions, there's a shadow in the dark. He comes to me infrequently and breaks your perfect heart. I don't know why I do it, apologize, but it's too late. A single tear and you leave me here, and the shadow slips away. Shadows in the city, I'm a stranger to myself, on these streets I'm someone else.
Egg.
Shadows in the city, like a demon in the dark, come to tear us apart. Neon city, downtown. Neon city, downtown. Neon city, downtown. Neon city, downtown. Neon city.
Egg.
Tombstones climbing up the sky to claim the boredom and the whine of the radiator, to freeze the fates that intertwine, unresolved and undefined in this echo chamber. Once you've given up the ghost, just like Lazarus, you'll know there's an operator, some strange passenger inside. To that strange power I'm resigned like an iron anchor. I'm just a ghost in your stereo, the fading memory of a shipwreck in the undertow. You're just a lost song I wrote, and I'm just a ghost in your stereo. Shadows on the blinds, your heart's a mercenary, but like a dancer on the wire, come the sparks of frayed desire as a fire's carried.
Pop! Hi! Oh, let me get this little swirly thing out of the way real quick. Bum, 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 bum. There we go. Hi everyone! Good evening! Or not evening, depending on where you are. Is the hi broken again? Are the fucking sounds... God damn it, hold on. What the oh, never mind, it was just late. Hi! Good evening! We're gonna have a nice chill... Bop! We're gonna have a nice chill stream today where we just built some things in Blender, you know? It is Wednesday. It is Wednesday. Meowdy partner, hi. Hi everyone. I hope you all are having a nice week. And I hope you all are excited to build a floor and then like a chair or something. I've got a bunch of like specific assets in the castle. I'll just open up the file now so we can all see. Let's see if it works. Not right away. Maybe I do this. No, of course it's also broken. I just remembered because everything broke at some point for undisclosed reasons. So let me just fix that real quick. Hi. Hello. Specific window. This is the one. So if I put this here, and I do this, and then I reset transform, and there it is. Okay. Okay, good. And then I do this, and that's still not quite right. Okay, hold on. I mean, it's fine, but there's a little thing at the bottom, as you can see. I guess it's not that big a deal. I guess it's fine. But maybe I can just move it to the middle. Middle, please, middle. No? No middle? Top or bottom? Okay. Maybe, hold on a second, let me transform. Center the screen. There we go. I'm smart. I know how to do things. Good. Make it oscillate rapidly between the two positions.
Egg.
I guess I don't know if I could do that. I could make it scroll, and I could probably make it scroll so fast that it looks like it's doing that, but I don't think I'm gonna do that. That would be bad. But we've got this now. It's good. It's fine. It's all right. Tuesday, or as I like to call it, Wednesday. You spelled Wednesday wrong, though. Wednesday is spelled W-E-N-S-D-A-Y, you know, the way that it's said. Just take it from me. Just that's definitely how it's actually spelled. But hi, everyone. As you can see, we've been, last time, which was a while ago now because I had surgery, we built these two couches. I think they're very nice still. Let me do this. These are good. They have such a nice, they have a very nice simplistic style to them, you know? They're not like overly detailed perhaps. They're maybe even a little bit under detailed with their mostly like flat shading and stuff. But it works. I think it looks really nice. And of course it fits with the rest of the castle style. Mwah, chef's kiss, you know? I am thinking that I should change this part of the pillars. I feel like this is a bit lacking, but the couch looks great, and like the little illusion of depth that we've got going on here. Oh, it's good, mamma mia, you know? So that's what we made last time. Chef's kiss, do they really? I'd like to think so. Is there any Yuri cooking stuff out there that'd be nice? Where they like both cook? Imagine if you have two restaurants, competing restaurants, and the owners of the restaurants fucking hate each other, but the head chefs at both restaurants, they meet and they really bond over their shared love of cooking and how much they hate their bosses. And then they kiss. I can imagine it. I think it's nice. I think that'd be cute. What would you call it? I guess you would just call it Chef's Kiss. You should call it Chef's Kiss. I think that's the only thing you could call it. You know? I would rewatch that. I want it to be real. I think that would be really, really cute. It would be great because it would be gay. It would be about cooking. It would be, you know, against like, it would be shitting on shitty bosses, so it'd be like anti-capitalist and stuff. I think it'd be really good. I would like that. I genuinely think that would be a really good idea. How good, how nice. Anyway, no, not she loves to cook, she loves to eat. They have to both be chefs. I want them to be chefs in love. I want to be chef's kiss, you know? Anyway, so yeah, last time we built the benches, they look very good. I'm very proud of them. So this time I would like to make this table here. This is not what the table shape will actually look like. This is a placeholder. So they both cook and they both love to eat, yeah. So I'll be making this table, but first I want to make a floor, because you can see this place has no floor. It also coincidentally has no ceiling, which is also not ideal. I think it'd be good if there was a ceiling. For the ceiling, we can probably, actually for both the floor and the ceiling, we can probably use the, this stuff and that stuff maybe, although it is darker, which I think would be less nice in the living room. So we might make an, although it's, we have a similar ceiling here. I think I'll make a new ceiling for this room, maybe. We'll see when we get there, I guess. So he's in the pocket of big ceiling. I like to not get wet when it's raining out. Is that so bad? You know? Anyway, so first we'll make a floor, but first we're gonna do astrogel. Oh, also, I haven't put a thing here yet. Let me see. I think if I open this, oops. Yeah, you can see I'm gonna make like an arch here. Although I'm not too sure. On the one hand, I think it looked very cute. On the other hand, that doesn't fall in line with the rest of the, that doesn't really fit together with the rest of the style of architecture of the castle. So it's more of a, right now, it's more of an like a curve. I think if I were to do this, That would already look a lot more fitting. Don't worry about the Z fighting, by the way. That's fine. This might look better, but then I'll make it smaller, you know? I think that would be good. For now, we'll leave it though. Huh. Why did I put the... I put the placeholder ceiling lower than where I was actually gonna put the ceiling. Silly me. Anyway, we're gonna do the eggies now. So remember, if you have put one little point, you can redeem it for an egg that will be put on stream. And another little fun reminder, just because I think it's fun, we are working on a new system that will make the eggs a little bit more easier to do and less obtrusive when we have like 50 of them, you know? And Dragon Catman, hello, thank you very much, and enjoy your lurk. And the first egg of the day comes to us from Kira Cat and Big Iron Juliet, Sally TTV, Aohel. I don't think we have any mods in chat today, but if we do, then shouting out Aohel would be great. Dr. Rudy G. Numpad, Bird Lover Jackson, Mike Loves Rabbit, Sekwar. Also, even if we don't have a mod in chat to shout out AOL, she did just say something in chat, so you can click on the name and go look at her great streams then. Green Clunk, Space Junk, Lucina of Stardust, Galaxy Voided, Just Some Trans Girl, Yoamaru, KQ Gray. Finishing the first X deck and starting the second is Anti-Gas and Wibless. And that's it for the starting egg. Thank you. Oh, I need to change the playlist actually. I mean, I guess I don't have to. I guess, well, I will, because I think if I do too much of like a recognized artist, then I might get muted, even though I usually don't with them. Yeah, like, I mean, maybe if it's too much of the video is that, then it still gets muted on YouTube, you know? Anyway, Meg didn't go through. Here we go. Okay, you got it. You did it. Hello, how was you? I'm pretty good. I had a nice day. I went into the city with a friend because he wanted to pick up a book that he had ordered. And so we just kind of walked around for a little bit. I bought a David Bowie book because I love David Bowie. It's specifically about like his rise to being a little bit more known, like from nothing to, you know, getting some albums out. Ow. A David Bowie, sure. Fun fact, my name Zoe was partially chosen because it rhymes with Bowie. Is it Loving the Alien? That is not the name of the book, if that's what you're asking. It's just called The Rise of Bowie. Oh! Oh my god, oh wait, I think this is a package. Okay, I'm gonna be back in a minute. You all enjoy the music and stuff. See you in a bit. Okay, hi. That was it's a new electric kettle that I had ordered because my old one's been acting up and turning on by itself, which is scary. And I forgot that it was gonna arrive today, so I went to the city and was like, oh well, I'm probably gonna miss it, and then I didn't, because I got home and I didn't have a note that it had been delivered yet, and then I forgot about it again, and here it is now. Yay! So I can make tea again, which is nice. I haven't been able to do that for the past few days. What? Yeah, I do. It's me. I do.
Egg.
Egg. Mecha VT. Thank you very much for your egg. You know, I feel like the last few streams since I've come back have been pretty intense. You know, they've been very, very fun, but they've been, you know, Halo and Signalis, I guess, which is not that intense per se. I mean, it's pretty scary. It's not that scary, but you know. But like, I've had co-hosts all of the time and stuff, and I think it's good if you have a stream like this where it's just me, it's just you guys, and it's just an activity. You know, to remind ourselves that I also do streams where it's not a bunch of screaming all the time. So what was I talking about? Yeah, I went into the city and I got a book. Yeah, I don't know, now I'm here. So let's get started. So we are going to want to make floors. Now this floor texture is specifically for the halls, but the one that we have here, not the big one, but this stuff should be good. I also do a little thing here where you can see that I like cut them in half a little bit to make them like a little shorter, you know. Sippy. I will take a sippy, thank you, Lucina. I've also been thinking, like specifically looking at this area here. I'm thinking like this could really use some props, you know? Some potted plants or something, I don't know, crates? Just some crates and barrels and maybe like lamp posts or something? I don't know. This place is gonna be lit up somehow. We've got lamps here on the wall, but oops, okay. We've got lamps on the wall here, but so that's stuff I would like to do. I think I would like to make some You are invisible. What are you? Hold on. Oh, you're a blockout thing that I... Huh? Why are you invisible? It's because you don't have material? No, it should just be white. What? Huh? What is going on? There's more of them. Why are you guys invisible? What if I give you a thing? No? Even without a material. Or with a material I can't see you. What the hell? This must have made sense to me at some point, but now it fucking doesn't. It's only because I can see their outline that I can see them, their wireframe. This is very strange. Why can't I see you? This is weird. Those containers look like amoguses. I think that's been pointed out before, yeah. When I first made them. Directing someone from like 2,000 miles away how to build their first computer was fun, but also there were several moments where I just wanted to reach through the screen and mess around and... That's fair. Sorry boss, we turned to crates into ghosts while you're away. Well, I guess it's only the blockout crates, so that doesn't matter that much, so I'll allow it. What a fun precarious bridge this is. What a fun time. I could make that texture better, I think. Yeah, I could I could make these little strands here a little more color variation. Oh well. Anyway, so we're gonna take the floor here, this piece. And then we're gonna separate selection. And then you're somewhere. Okay, there we go. You're in throne room. We're gonna take you out of throne room and rename you to living room floor. And then we're going to put you in lounge. Did I call it lounge? That doesn't seem right. Hello? Oh, I can't select these things. Hold on. Right, okay, yeah. Wait, wasn't it called a living room? Do I just have 2 folders for separate things? Yeah, I do. Okay, alright. Alright, so we're gonna take everything from lounge and put it in living room. I think I called it a lounge first, and I decided, nah, no. I don't want to call it that anymore. So then I renamed it to living room. Get rid of you. Living room floor. Living room. Okay. Okay, so we take the floor, we take the moon, and we take the moon. And we set origin to geometry, so it's in the middle. Okay. So now we have a floor, very good. This gives me Mega Man Legends vibes, and I love it. What the world? That is no surprise, because that is my biggest inspiration when it comes to my 3D modeling art style. Okay, so now what's big sadsies is that it's not quite. It is so close to being just as big as half the room width, which would have been perfect, but it's not. So now I have to. Okay, let's see. This line here, as you can see, is the middle. So that's a nice point of reference. And what we're going to do is we're going to cut this. Yeah, I think we're just gonna cut it in half. Split, and then... Why are there 2 of you? Why is there 2 of you? I don't want there to be 2 of you, that's incorrect. Also, if there are any mods in chat, although I think all my mods are either streaming or co-hosting a stream right now. If they could give Chibla's Discord access, that would be good. I think I left the Discord server by accident at some point when I was cleaning out my server. That is actually not what happened. I can tell you what happened, Chibla's. We made the new rule that if all you do is like self-promote and you don't actually take part in the community, then you get your member role revoked. But one of my mods accidentally just kicked you from the server instead. So that's what happened. Why is there 2 of you, me, when I see twins? Okay, wait, how did I do this before? I remember... Because I did this a bunch for the throne room. And also for the hallways and stuff. So how did I, like, exactly... I think I just didn't do it exactly. Hold on. I think what I do is... Just try to line this up nice, like... Wait, I'm doing the wrong one. Here we go. There we go. Okay, and then we... Okay, wait, so I just... Okay, and then we cycle the vertices, and we combine the distance, and now it is one hole again. Yay! Yeah, I think you need more mods. Yeah, I do. I'm just like a little bit picky about who I allow to become a mod. I don't participate a ton in servers because I run my own mainly, but I like lurking to see what's going on. That's fair, but we still kind of we still decided like, well, if someone only ever you know, self-promotes but isn't actually part of the community, we don't really like that. We want, you know, it's the full server is for the community. If you're not actually part of the community, but you are trying to, you know, promote yourself, no thanks, you know. All right, so let's see what we do here. I guess we can just. Yeah, I'll no, actually, this should be good, I think. Yes, okay. Just this little bit at the edge. I think being picky is important when it comes to picking mods. I'd say so. They're the ones who help you maintain your community. If you don't trust them to do the job as you would do it, you know. Your queen is right here. I'm pointing at her. Where is she? I don't see her. She could show up for a moment, but I don't see her right now. Okay. Get rid of these two. And merge vertices by distance. Okay. And here we go. Yeah, I think that's good. That's a good floor, I'd say. Look where I'm pointing, Zoe. Wow! There she is, I see her. She was there. My microwave gets so angry that I'm not taking my soup out right away, living in it. What do you mean he's getting angry? Does your microwave complain? Oh wait, are you guys suggesting I make Yippee Queen make Yippee Queen a mod? I think she would do a terrible job. Yippee Queen is unpredictable. That floor looks good to lay down and zone out on. I'd say so. I feel like it'd be like that nice kind of cool floor, you know? It like beeps every minute after it's ready if you don't take the food out. That is... I mean, I feel like it's good because otherwise I would probably forget, but that is funny and it's kind of annoying. Do I change that? No, I don't. Okay, so we've got this floor, but we're not done yet because, as you can see when I do this, okay, well, when I do this, I want to make a balcony because that'll be nice. And the balcony also needs a floor. Fun fact. Posture check, thank you. I will do so. And it's stretchy.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Whoa.
There we go. Yippee Queen would consume all life, and I think that would be good for the community. That's not. I don't know if she would do that. Whether or not it'd be good for the community, I'm not gonna comment on. I'm gonna move these slightly up to stop the Z-vining. Good. Queens do need balconies. It's true. It's true. I think if you don't make Yippee Queen a mod, there will soon be ghosts in your living room. There already are. Spectral Queen is right there. Come on. Okay, now what do I want for this floor, though? Let me go see over here, actually. This is nice. This is a nice thing that I built here. This is a good thing. This is cool and good. I made something very nice here. This looks good. I'm proud of what I've done. You know? I think it's cool and good. I'm proud. I'm proud of my work. Anyway, let's see. The way that I like made this look like stairs, even though it's flat, it's good. I did good, you know? Ooh. Put an OXC in chat. You want to see Zoe pizza cream on purposely fire. What does that mean? What does any of that mean? What are you talking about? People say to be proud of your work always. It's very important to look back and look at your work and be like, no, yeah, I'm doing a good job actually. This is going good. Balcony, more like galcony. That's why I kiss girls, dude. That's why I'm kissing girls. I bring girls over and I'm like, look at how hard I can kiss you on this balcony. And then we do it. You say to kiss girls always. Always kiss girls. Alright, I'm just gonna do it like this. Listen, I could totally like try making another floor texture, and I guess it wouldn't be that hard, but also we've got a lot of stuff to get through with this castle, you know? So let's just get on with it. I focus on my voice for once. Okay, I just put this somewhere else, and then I do this, and then I split, and then and then I do this. Da 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 dun. Get the thing I need. Is there a thing I need? Hold on. Did I not? Yeah, there is. Kill? Okay, so get rid of get the other thing. Get the thing I need. The other thing I need. What are you Z fighting with? What's going on? Who are you? What's happening? Hold on. Get so get this thing. Get the other thing. Get the thing. Okay, hold on. There we go. Okay, got it. I'm gonna be seeing my long distance girlfriend in person this weekend. Looking forward to kissing a girl. Nice! Dude, have fun. That's so awesome for you. Ow. Okay, wait, combine. Okay, these, and then merge them by distance, and it didn't do anything. Hold on, let me move. What is back here? What are you? Can I remove you? You're dead. I killed you. Ow. Okay, and then I can merge by distance. There we go. And then we're going to do this. There we go. There. And then I copy you and put you over there. There. Okay. Wait. that normal? Sort of. Oh, I realized what I'm doing wrong. And now it's kind of annoying to fix. I got rid of the edges, like this edge, which is over here. Is it here? No, that's not right. Just gonna start over. Whatever. Kills you, takes you, moves you here, rotates you. What is that? 95 degrees? No, 45 degrees. Put you over here. Okay, first do this, and then. Okay. Oh, I'll just get rid of that. Okay. And then do. Remove this. Make sure that's connected. Merge all vertices. There we go. Okay, so then we have this. This floor looks perfect for walking on. Well, be careful because it does still disappear sometimes, and also there's a hole here. So, just maybe don't just yet. You know, just to be sure. Just hold on. What was I doing before? Oh, yes, okay. Put this here, like that. And then I guess I can just do that, that's fine. Oops, split. Okay. That's a layer of danger. That's true, it does make it more exciting. I think that's why people like going into like abandoned warehouses and stuff. It adds to the danger of it, you know, makes it more fun and exciting. I know that's why I go into abandoned places. All right, merge by distance, copy, and move over here. And then I am also going to flip it because that'll be fun along the x-axis. Nope. Along the y-axis. There we go. Yeah. Actually, yeah. Or what if they were both flipped? What if you were flipped now? Y-axis? Yeah, I think I like that more. Sure, whatever. Sorrow urban explorer moments real. I like abandoned warehouses because there might be a common rider fight in there. Well, then they wouldn't be abandoned now, would they, though, huh? Didn't think about that, did ya? Alright, so we've got this floor. Gonna go ahead and join all of these into one, which we will check to make sure it's called the floor. Yes, it is. Very nice. Okay, although, wait, there's still a random bit here. What are you? Who are you? You are nothing. You are literally nothing. You are nothing to me. Be unmade. There we go. I see some eggies. Let me just get those.
Egg.
Another one. Aversal, Chobulus, and Squid Liminal. Thank you all very much for the eggs. Cool. So that's done. Wait, I can't flip this because then the thing looks bad. I can't. No. No, that simply cannot be. We'll have to live with that. It's not a nice symmetrical pattern. We'll just have to live with it. Also, I have to flip. I have to flip these, all of these now. There we almost go. There, now it matches up nicely. Good. Cool. Who knows what you could find in an abandoned warehouse? A cute blonde girl? A sense undertill eye? Oh, I gotta keep reading, dude. It does remind me of something I drew once. Let me see if I can find it. A little doodle. How would I find this? How am I ever gonna find this, dude? Oh, I found it. It's literally titled "Any Girls in Here?" I'm this file is titled "Any Girls in Here?" That's good. That's pretty perfect. Hat for Derek. What kind of hat would you like? This was me coming to this warehouse before it was finished. Like before I started to turn it into a castle, that was me walking in here. Cowboy hat. I think I have a cowboy hat, I'm pretty sure. So I can get you that. Can I? Hold on. Oh, I see a stuck Cupid. Woohoo! Alright. And yeah, we've got a nice 10-gallon or whatever the fuck that is. What do they call them that? Do people drink from them? Looking mighty fine there, Derek. There we go. Alright, floor achieved. Now, oh, Tills, because he builds things. That makes so much sense. I love when there's logic, you know? I love when there's logic to the Sonic stickers. We'll put Tills. Put him here on the egg stack. Look at him go. Helping us build. Now we can either get to making the table and stuff, or maybe even the carpet, or we can make the balcony stuff, or like the wall. This arch here. What would we like to do? I think table would probably be good, because that would just look nice, I guess. I don't know. Which would be able to enable media shares for art streams with the right to skip any terrible music you want. Want to share some tunes I like on stream while also supporting you. The thing about that is that I put my stuff on YouTube. And if it gets muted, then that's bad to do. I need to start trying to record my streams directly with like multiple audio channels, so that if there is stuff, then I can just you know, I can just re-render it, but without the music at that part. But as it stands, I'm not too interested in doing that, I will admit, because I just keep forgetting. Anyway, I think we'll make a table. Let's make a table, gang. So the table is to be about this size, so we'll just take that and put it right over here, so we can build on it. Put it into 0. There we go. Center of the map. It looks like I already making clear rotation. Oh, I can. Nice. Okay, cool. Take that out of the blockout props. Rename this to blockout. And this can just be called coffee table. Put it in here. Actually, it should be in assets, not in that. Assets are here. Okay. All right. You could do what a streamer I watched play Tony Hawk's Underground did, which is turn off all music and play recordings of herself karaokeing all the songs in the soundtrack over the game. That is very funny. I like that. That's good. Forgetting is an important part of the ADHD autism experience. It's not great, but it is important. So this is a table. Let me just put it next to myself to check if it would be a good, be a good size. For a coffee table, that seems good. So, let's see. What do I want to do for the coffee table? It's gonna be sci-fi. I'm thinking about what the couch looked like. We'll put a picture of the couch next to us, next on screen actually, so we can compare nicely. Okay, got that. Make it just one actually. Well, let me go to the couch that I put here, which I did, yes. Good. Don't know why they're pointed towards the giant things, but whatever. What are they called? Shipping containers. I'll move you a little bit for now. There we go, get a nice single image as a frame of reference. That's good. Table. Okay. Save as. Save it in like downloads or something so I can remember to delete it later. Couch. Couch. There, we'll keep that one on hand so we can look at it as a style guide, kind of, a little bit. Right, so what I'm thinking is we'll make this part wider so you can have a lot of surface area. Let's see, something like that. Oops. This is probably good actually. Okay, and then let's see if I remember how to bevel. Here we go. Ooh, okay. Oh, that's not quite right. It's because it's not a perfect rectangle, a perfect square. So then what the fuck do I... Wait, maybe I can do this actually. Oh, I'm smart! Oh, Chet, fucking watch me go. You're gonna be amazed. No, never mind. I don't... Wait, maybe I don't know what to do. If I... No. Maybe if I... Hold on a second. Okay, if I do this... And then do bevel... The gauntlets look really powerful and capable of crushing things today. Why, thank you! Yes, they are! That's so nice of you to say! My gauntlets are very cool and powerful and such. You're so right, thank you. I don't get complimented on that a lot. That's very nice. Oh, I made it worse somehow. I think, maybe? Maybe I didn't. Okay, what was I thinking about doing? I forgot my plan. I forgot my ingenious plan, Chad. It's all over. It's so fucking over. If I... Ooh. No. You know what? That's okay. I thought maybe there was gonna be too many polygons. Anyway, it's alright. I saw a Tumblr post about someone getting complimented on their particle cannons and thought of you. Oh, that's so nice. That's fun. I like that. Okay, wait, I know, maybe, I might know. If I extrude, and I do like this, and then I do, nope, and then I do, nope, I do, nope, Oh, because they're all attached, of course. Okay, no problem. I know what to do. First, I do it on this side. Then I do it on this side. No! Mean to me. Okay, I do this. I just kind of eyeball it. There's probably other ways to do this that I'm just not thinking about because I'm not actually that good at this. Ha 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 ha. Nope. That's better. And then, nope. And then well actually, well now. Okay. And then, here is my great genius, Chad. The thing that I am so smart of. I get rid of all these. I dissolve these edges. And there we go. Ta-da! Now we've got our nice rounded corners. And they are, I think, good. Wait, what the get out of here. I think they're good. There's still some shit going on down here. I don't know if I should take care of that. I probably should do something about that. There we go. I think it'll work if I do this. If I do this, what happens? Nothing. Alright, good. Cool, cool, cool. I'm so smart, as it turns out. You know, I get there in the end. Get out of here! Fuck off! There we go. Hello? Do the thing, please. Thank you. Alright. Good. It's a simple model, but then it doesn't have to be that complicated. And the texture is going to help a lot, of course. I think that looks pretty nice so far. Nice and simple. Oh wait, I have to to do this. Let's see, best way to do that would probably just be the we could do this, which would be kind of funny. This would technically work. For those who don't know, every face needs to have no more than 4 corners, so 4 vertices. So technically speaking, this would work. This would be okay. It looks pretty weird, but then again, you're not gonna see that anyway. But this would be okay, technically speaking. Although I think it would be a little bit nicer if you did it like this, because I think it is better if the closer they are to a triangle, or like a normal triangle or a normal rectangle. So, oops, that's not what I wanted. So this is better. This is the better way to do it. All right, so we've got that. So we're going to apply all transforms. Egg 0 leg. Thank you very much for your egg. There you go. So now we're going to just do a quick check. Did I get everything? Oop. Polar stars, thank you as well. That egg is Tills. Yeah, she hasn't cracked yet. Okay, yeah, I think I got everything. Do I want, let's see, how did I do the couch? To the couch! Yeah, that seems good. HRT stands for human form replaced with triangles. That's me, that's what I did. I'm digital. Okay, so we got that, and then we're going to UV unwrap it, which is a big pain in the ass. It's simultaneously, like, it's like a fun puzzle part of it, but only sometimes. A lot of times it's just fucking annoying, so that's cool. Alright. So we're going to mark some seams, which is how the program will know well, where to cut UV. Mark a seam here. Mark a seam here. Got everything? Nope. Go and mark seams here, and then over here we will clear the seams. So ideally that is where they will then connect, so it should be all good and nice. I'll take a sippy boulder, sir, thank you. UV unwrapping is like 90% of the reason I bounce off 3D modeling and art. It's absolutely my least favorite part. You get better at it the more you do it, of course, but yeah, I don't like it. I only like it like near the end when I've got all the pieces assembled and I just have to fit them together inside the script. That part is kind of fun because it's like fun to see how cleanly you can all fit it, you know? How much of the texture you can actually utilize. But I don't like the process to get there very much personally. Like most 3D modeling, UV unwrapping is fun when it goes well and agonizing when it's hard. Yep. But it's extremely... my tongue, I bit my tongue. Ow. But it's extremely satisfying when, at times when you accomplish something cool. It's a fun puzzle that fucking sucks. Alright, so... Smart UV unwrap, do not stretch the bounds, and go. Okay, this seems like some fairly clean pieces here. Let's see, what are you? You're the side. Right, you do not seem to be the correct size at all. Oh, right. Okay, that makes sense actually because these are trapezoid shapes. So, all right. Just give me a moment. Okay, that shouldn't be the issue anywhere else. So let's try again. Why are you still... What the hell is going on? Why are you the big wrong shape? What is your deal? Guess we'll have to fix that. Yeah, I've learned to get less picky with all the details perfectly lining up in my UVs and have started to enjoy it a little more. Yeah, it's that you start to understand the process more. You start to understand its limitations more and just accept the little faults here and there. So it's good. I found out it's generally a worse process for low poly stuff because you don't want pixels getting away. Yeah, oh yeah, absolutely. It's much harder for low poly stuff because if you have a high poly and especially high resolution texture stuff, then if it doesn't line up perfectly, that's not really a big deal. You're not gonna notice. But if you have a low poly pixel art style model, you're gonna notice very easily, you know? Because it's pixels. It's literally pixel perfect. So, yeah. I totally understand what you mean with that. Okay, so we got this. So we are going to put a placeholder material on you that's probably not in here anymore. Doesn't look like it. So we're gonna make a new one. We're gonna call it test blocks. I don't know, I forgot what I always called this stuff. And then we're going to create a new image, which is... Actually, I'm going to do that somewhere else. Where I usually do that? Here, I guess? I don't know. Where do I usually do that? I feel like I usually do that somewhere. Good sentence. Good talk, Zoe. Okay, image texture, and then new. There we go. Wait. I think the image texture should still be... Nope. Should still be in here, probably. Haha, no, of course it's not. Alright then. Blocks. And we will make that... Okay, hold on. Let me take a look at the couch, see how big that one is. Textures. Couch. Couch was 256 by 256. That's about what I expected. So we'll do the same here. Although we might actually... Maybe this one could be smaller. Maybe not. We'll find out. And we'll make it a color grid. There we go. And there we go. So now we've got a beautiful test texture to work off of. That might be why I love Morrowind modeling so much. All the joys of low poly modeling with all the UV benefits of more realistic textures. And they're I forgot the exact name for it, but they're like blurry textures, you know? So it's actually, that's such an interesting thing to me about Ocarina of Time and like some other N64 games, where the textures, especially in Ocarina of Time for the environment mostly, are really small. They're super small. They're like 16 by 16 or something, but they are extremely fucking blurred out, so, which still like creates a smooth looking texture. It's very clever. It's very well done. It takes up very little space, and because the blurring happens not in the files but in the actual game itself, you know? That's very good. Like during the rendering process. Anyway. So we're gonna go here and we are going to... Oh yeah, I forgot! Hold on. Couch. Oh, that's good. Hello. Nice. Did I also... Hold on, did I change the color in the... No, it's... Oh, this one doesn't say hello. Oh, dude, the secrets. That's gonna be so cool. What are you? Oh yeah, you're a chain. Hello. A chain link, specifically. Anyway, that's fun. Lost my little snack in the cushions behind the couch. Yeah. Big sad. Hello. Big sad. Ooh, where are you? Hello, there you are. Okay, so first things first, I want to adjust these 4. They are all going to be the same. They are going to share a texture, so we're just going to make them all overlap as best as we can. There we go. And then mirror, there we go. So are these all the same? I think they're all the same thing now. Okay, let me just Ooh! A raid! Oh, these are not all the same, damn. Okay, in a moment then. Biddles and all your viewers, hello! Welcome, thank you so much for coming. What were you all up to? Keva Mink, thank you very much for following. Hello everyone, my name is Zoe Galna Queen. I am an artist of various kinds. Currently, as you can see, I'm doing some 3D art. We're making a sci-fi-ish table. X-Red Joker, thank you for following as well. My pronouns are she, her. I'm hanging out. I hope you guys had a really good time over at Biddles' channel. We're currently doing some Mr. Not So Anything. Aw, come on, give yourself a little credit. Thank you very much for following as well. Been playing some co-op with my little sis. How have you been? Oh, that's nice. I hope it's been fun. I've been alright. I've been recovering from my surgery, but I'm back to streaming now. Still not all there. Still not completely done with the recovery, but we're getting there. We're getting there. I'm gonna say like another month or 2. Hopefully just like 1 month before I'm all good. 2 tops, I would say, unless something goes wrong, but I hope not. But so yeah, I've been pretty alright. So we were doing some UV unwrapping, which if you don't know is we are at the process of the model making where we will decide we're gonna make it so that we can put a texture on it. That's what we're doing. So I have to flip you and you also, I think. Yes. Okay, flip you. Just okay. So now what what we're first gonna do. What we're first gonna do is move this. Let's see where you're over there. We'll move this vertice so that this is
Yippee!
this is nice and flat. Hold on. Oh, wait, I know. There we go. Now we can see it much better. Hello. It's more like I'm unique and not like anyone else. Oh, okay, that is good then. You are giving yourself more credit. Cool, cool, cool. Okay. Alright, like that I think, and then like this. That doesn't seem right. Oh wait, maybe if I... There's something else that's... no. Am I just wrong? Chat. Okay, no, okay, this does seem actually symmetrical now that I look at it. Does it? No. I don't think it does. Okay, wait. No. It's definitely supposed to be like this, but it doesn't feel symmetrical, which is fucking me up. But oh well! As long as it works, I guess. But it's gonna be annoying and it's gonna look bad. It's gonna look so big sucks, dude. But oh well. I'm just gonna take this, put it over there, and put it over there. Make sure, oops, make sure that these all overlap. Because they are all going to share the same texture. Good. Okay, so we got that. What are you supposed to be? Beep. Oh, you are these things. Okay. All right. Should we make these bigger, actually? Hold on. Can I do that? If I do this? Nope. If I do this? Sort of. Put it on normal. Nope, because it doesn't work. There we go. Okay, I think if I were to do... This probably won't work, but it might work. It's crazy, but it might just work. It doesn't work. Actually, it does sort of work. I think it actually just works. This just works. It works, yay! But I already started doing the UV unwrap, so... Although it's okay, because I'm only affecting these things, not these sides that I've already affected, so I can just only unwrap the parts that I've changed. I hope it's okay if I just like talk about my process. I hope that's an okay enough content. If you guys know anything else I should talk about, let me know. I tend to just talk about what I'm doing when I'm working. Alright, so then we're gonna unwrap that again. Looking at yourself in the server, your stuff is really... Oh wait, you're talking about something else. Talk about girls. I love girls! Talk about the early Bronze Age trade routes of the Mediterranean. I feel like we don't hear enough about the girls on those early trade routes. You know, they were really like pulling all the weight. It was really their trade route if you really think about it. Talking about the process is really cool. I love hearing about everything that goes into this kind of stuff. Also, talk about girls. Ow. Okay, so there's actually something I can mention, I guess, about girls. So Hatsune Miku is going to have a concert in Amsterdam in the Netherlands in October. Yeah, not serious. Could transition have saved her? No, but it could have excused her. Because women can do anything. So Hatsune Miku is coming to the Netherlands in October. And it'll be the second time that I will go see her live, which is very exciting. The first time was when I was like just starting my transition. Like, I don't even know if I actually had started my transition yet or if I was just like not yet out of the closet, you know? I'm not sure which one I was, but basically I looked completely different than I do now. Body shape, appearance, voice, which is not a thing that looks, all that kind of stuff was all totally different. So it'll be very fun for me to go again. And back then I went with one friend, and now we're gonna go with like 6 people, a whole friend group, so that's really nice. A friend group that didn't even like really exist in this form back then. But the first time I went, there was a concession stand. You know, it's like you have like the big venue and there's stuff in front of it and the merch booth. Ooh, get your stuff. I was unable to get the shirt that I wanted. Fuck. And then there's a concert hall, but then there's also a concession stands, you know? Do you think Miku will recognize you this time? There's she'll be like, oh my god, Zoe Queen, also from the digital realm. So fun, so nice to see you. So there's a concession stand, and at the concession stand was no, these are supposed to be different sizes actually, it's normal. Was a goth girl. And I thought she was so fucking cool, and I was right. But what's very funny to me, like it was that kind of situation where I was like, oh my god, I love you. I love the way you present yourself. This is incredible. Oh my god, what are these emotions? And the emotions were, that's so fucking cool, I want to be that. But it might also, yeah, it might also have been Yuri. But it's very funny that like, I feel like that was like part of me becoming goth in real life. Was like one of the first moments where I was like, oh my god, goth people are real and they look fucking awesome, you know? The goth girl was me from the future, yeah. So it's very funny that until today when I was talking about the last time we went with the friend that I went back then, that I didn't make that connection. That was like the first time that I like noticed a goth person in real life and went, they look so fucking amazing, you know? So it's kind of fun that I'll be like going back to that place where it all began, and I'll see Miku perform again. Maybe Gumi will be there. That would be nice. Why are you sideways? Why are you sideways? Fuck you. So that's the thing that happened. Miku mentioned this in the kind of broken English you get when you try to make Miku talk in English. Oh my gosh, it's Zoe Yippee Queen, the pizza girl I see on my TV screen. Man, she's such a poet. She rhymed. Are you kidding me? Amazing. Miku can do it all. And then some. Wait, why are you this shape? Oh, because you're on this side. Is that normal? Yeah, that's normal, sure. If I were a mod, I would ban the term pizza girl. It's not that annoying. I'm okay. Pizza girl can stay for now. for now. I hate when I rhyme on accident. You hate when you rhyme on accident? I fucking love when I rhyme on accident. It's so fun. I love when I'm a poet and I don't even know it because I make a rhyme every time. That's so delightful. I love rhyming on accident. How could you say that? Where's your whimsy, Space Junk? Are you okay? Do you need someone? Oh, my face. Physical pencils all. No, I wouldn't. I wouldn't do that. Stop making up lies or I'm gonna ban you. Is that 1 pixel? Yeah, that's 1 pixel. Alright, so now we've got all that done and that doesn't fucking fit. People assume it's on purpose and it feels like stolen valor. But isn't it? But can't you just be like, no, that wasn't even on purpose. That's how amazing I am. That's how amazing I am. I didn't even do it on purpose. That's how powerful I am, you know? Yawn, yawn, yawn. Yawn, yawn, yawn. Isn't it interesting that the word yawn has all the letters and also one extra letter that you need to make nya? I think that's very cool. Yeah, I'm right. Just I was like thinking like, does it though? Y-A-H. No, wait, how do you spell yawn? Y-A-W-N. Yeah, I'm right. Yeah. Oh, I take a sippy, thank you. Thank you, Lucina. Meow.
Meow.
All right, we did it. It's done. So we got that. We're very clever by putting the... Wait, actually, is there already a thing here? No, there's not. I win. We're very clever by putting the bottom inside of the... which saves on space, you know? So now that we have this... I can now tell anyone that they go, no. You can! And a lot of people will probably be very confused and maybe a bit annoyed by you. But just know that I go nya sometimes. And if I can do it, so can anyone else. I give them permission. UP. Wait, make sure to put an underscore there because that's how I've been doing it. Am I gonna sneeze? I don't think so. Okay. Now we're gonna build up, open up a whole other program. Is Lumamoth? Hello, thank you very much for following. Right, new thing, 256. And then we're gonna drop the... You guys can't see what I'm doing right now, but you will be able to see it soon. So just... Where did I save that? Hold on. Huh? Did I save this anywhere? Oh yeah, I did. Am I blind? Huh? Oh, I have these on date modified, not on name. That makes sense. Where is it? No, I'm so blind. Okay, there we go. All right. And enjoy your lurk, anti-gas. Thank you. My muse is Kazuma Kiryu, so I don't know if I want him to speak through me. So if I want him to speak through me, he'd say, "I've had a bad day and I'm pissed off about it, so this is just bad luck for you." No, okay, that depends. Kazuya is mean to people that he doesn't like, but he's extremely kind and like supportive and tries very hard to understand other people. Even complete strangers on the street, he'll like help out if he can. You know, be a bit nicer to the man, you know? Okay, coffee table, text, and then how does this work again? It's been a while. Wasn't it here? This? Okay, I think it's this. Coffee table, coffee table, coffee table, coffee table. There we go. And then... Oh wait, I have to connect first. How do you do that again? Shit. Ooh. It's been too long, chat. Sync? There we go. Okay, yeah, there we go. Okay, cool. Got it. So as you can see, there's now a wireframe on the table. And if I start drawing on it, which I will in just a moment. UV. If I start drawing on it, huh. Wait, what is... Shit. Hold on a second. What the hell? Damn it! Oh. Okay. Why is it failing? What the hell's going on? Let me just try again. What the fuck? Okay, let me try restarting real quick. Because this isn't working as it should. Yeah, save. And for her next trick, I don't know why it's not working. Okay, sync. Okay, it says it's synced. Go here. Okay, now it's working. Okay, we're good. We're good. We're good. We're good. No, I just don't have to. Wait, why are you guys getting the? You guys are getting the wrong thing. There you go. And now, as you can see, when I doodle on the fucking thing, wow, there it is. It appears. So that is how we will be making the texture. Let's see. I'm actually first going to grab the couch texture because we will be color picking from that. Couch. There we go. Oop. Starting with this. Whoops, my face. Kiryu once said, keep falling in love to a lesbian who was about to settle for him because her crush turned her down. Yo! Kiryu. Keep falling in love, dude. It's so real. Thank you, Kiryu. Everybody say thank you, Kiryu. What a fucking... What a hero. Ow. My face. Yo, Goofy, hi! Yay, my friend threw a U-bot at me. I'm so happy. How you doing, Goofy? Do we have any mods in chat who can give Goofy a shout out? That would be so awesome. Thank you, Kiryu. Okay. I'm doing the bottom right now. There it is. I'm actually gonna do the same thing as what I did on the couch. So let's see. We'll put it over here. Right over here-ish, and then here, I think, and here, and there we go. I'm incognito. Okay, well, sorry. Don't go follow. Do not follow my friend Goofy Honk, who is a great voice and very, very, very good artist and plays fun games and is fun. Don't do that, please. That would be inconvenient for them. So definitely don't go over there and check them out, please. What's behind it? Suspiciously Majiba shake dropship rock. I think it's Slenderman. I think he's down there, down beneath the rock. You lift him up and he's crawling around there like a little bug. Oh my god! Okay, hello. Okay, bottom achieved. Me after I got my bottom surgery. Let me go back to the couch to check up on those and compare. Yeah, that's good. Okay. All right. Then we're going to do a little thing on the side, which is this color. And that should go right over here. Make it like 2 pixels tall to start with. Over here I also made 2, so it should be good. Da, 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 da. Oh, I did it wrong somehow. Huh? How is this possible? Oh, that's how it's... okay. Okay. Fix now. Okay. I'm actually gonna see if I have a different playlist. Didn't I make like a nice calm playlist at some point for stuff like this? I seem to recall doing that at one point. No. No, I did not. I guess I have this. It's not quite it, but sure. We'll do that and the chill one at the same time. Just so we have a little bit more variety. Kiryu also once said everybody has obstacles they have to deal with. Yours is just a bit bigger than everyone else's. To a trans woman who thought he'd be disgusted to learn the truth. I know about that one, and it is very, very nice. I really like that one. Now we are going to color the underside of this of the table, like so. Yep, that's good. Although I'm actually going to... My face keeps... It's because I'm so fucking focused, you know? That my eyes keep going. I'm okay. That's just when I'm like in deep thought or glitching or something. When I'm very confused by something, perhaps. It's okay. I'm okay, chat, don't worry. Alright, so we got that, and then on the side, we're gonna do a little bit of that. Fuck, my eyes. We're gonna do a little bit of that as well. Da, 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 da. Good. That's good, it's good. I recall the eye thing happening in the last 3D stream too. It happens a lot because the way that I activate it is by clicking my mouse scroll wheel to the side, but that's also how I like move the how I pan across the canvas in my pixel art program. So, you know. Oh my god, I'm getting pibbied. Oh my god, I'm getting stretchy and posture checked.
Car battery!
I don't feel safe.
Phew.
When I stretch, I fucking stretch, huh? Okay. Okay, then we'll make the top. Now what color ow! Ah! Now what color should the top be? We've got pink and orange for the couches. I'm thinking just a blue. I'm thinking just a blue will be good, because most of the excellent girl, nicest. Thank you, and you're welcome. Because a lot of the castle's already blue, and a table is going to have things on it. You know, you're gonna put things on it, so they'll stand out nice. If Also, ow! Also, Mr. Not So Anything, it was Deadline from Amphibia. Congrats! I don't feel safe. Got your mother in a whirl. She's not sure if you're a boy or a girl. You know what? During this e-break, I'm gonna start Other Side Picnic. You know what? During this e-break, I'm also going to continue reading Other Side Picnic. But, okay, so, okay, so I think the table will have a yellow top because, yeah, yippee! It'll have a yellow top because, I mean a blue top because you'll put other things on it that will then, stand out more because most of the castle's already blue. It'll be a lighter blue or a darker blue. No, it'll be a lighter blue, so it's still a little bit different from the walls and stuff. I think that'll be good. We're so productive. So for the union-regulated Yuri break. Yes. So, yeah, we are going to... I'm glad I found an affordable copy of the first omnibus and it seems to be started good. Yeah, that's amazing. I really feel like I need to get after the other two now. I'm like scared I won't be able to get them anymore. Anyway, yeah, we're gonna take a 20 or so minute break during which I will do my ester gel. If you guys have any medicine you have to take, please remember to do so. Remember to get some snackies, stretch your leggies, and stay hydrated. And we'll play some nice music during this break, and then we'll be back to continue this table. Okay, see you guys soon.
For my brother Billy down, can't shake the love. My
Come, lady hourglass, take me by the hand. I'll shower you with gifts if you'll just make the hard times pass. Tall and blue and crystalline, I'll be yours if you'll be mine. This ancient battle against time, bound to make a mark. We gotta get some weight on that tiny waist. Yeah, open up that little space. Chocolate covered lollipops and all that stuff. Break the spirits of the sand in every hourglass of the land. Sands rushing to your feet just like your head's on fire. 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 It's been 7 years inside pops and chocolate covered lemon drops. Wasted grew the sanded drop, time flew by. Every single grain of sand that passes through my crystal hands. A child is born, a boy's a man. This you have to understand. Play the cards that you was dealt. No matter if you're feeling well. Best will come around you. Best will come, best will come. Best will come around you. Even if your head's on fire. 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 Head's on with the dawn, we rose aloud, stretched and yawned. What's left? Surveyed around the humble sound. Searched all of our minds alike for the faintest cloud. Southbound, satisfied with what we'd found. After all, the causes we get behind, we can stand, finding some common ground. We clap our hands to show it. We are lucky and we know it. We clap our hands to show it. We are lucky and we know it. We are lucky and we know it. We are lucky and we know it. We clap our hands to show it. We are lucky and we know it. We are lucky and we know it. With the focus on, always moving up and moving on. We can't rest till we've driven off and our hearts become second best and left behind with the weakest palm. What's down but a safety net and the softest ground? In between all I knew I had everything figured out. Till night came and I lost my shadow. Blended with moonlight and broken glass. 10 hours of panic will follow. I'm lost, the trees look black, my red shirt is turning gray. Strange things just won't stop appearing. Give me day, give me light. These days, those days, I was taught to bottle my emptiness, deal with my quarter life angst by painting pictures. The tip of my pencil describes what I might have drawn. Had my left brain and right hand been in contact. Broken sentences now. Read on. Then all at once, the sky started raining, soaked to the bone, stopped. People of nighttime came out of hiding. One of them turned my way. She said, I'd like to tell you some things I wish I'd known when I was young, like you. It won't take a second, but it could save you years. Years pass like seconds out here. I was enthralled with the way that she spoke so softly. For a lady of her finesse and personal hygiene, she had cuts, bruises, scrapes, scratches, hair tangled everywhere. She spoke in a way that commanded my attention. You're at the top of your game. You're in control of your life. Blue of the oyster, the cream of the Oreo. What I would give for that, I hope you never know. So live your life. Don't sleep through the night. Life for the living, you gotta start living it right. So live your life. Don't sleep through the day. Dreams are for living, you gotta stop letting them die. Here on the rain coast, the wind blows, waves cold, high tide rise and disappear. Islands disappear.
starlight disappears.
Egg.
It's only a goddamn song. 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 Serious.
caught me in a glove. Took a good shot when she caught me with a glove. Couldn't bob weave and she knocked me to the rug. Stop them off being not me. All knock need and it got being not me. All knock need and it got me in a rut. Got me in a rut. Last resort now, watch me in the sub.
And I will follow you no matter where you go. I wanna be the comfort in your company. Holy shit, it hit me like a ton of bricks. Even though we worked it out, everything is different. Yeah, and I will follow you no matter where you go. I wanna be the comfort in your company. And I will follow you no matter where you go. I wanna be the comfort in your company. Holy fuck, we're gonna need a ton of love. Even though we are all born innocent, it doesn't take too much to fuck it up.
Woo! Hi! Welcome back to me, to my stream. Hello.
Hi.
Let me just do a little bump on the socials. There we go. Comfort in your company. Anyway, I hope y'all had a good break. I actually did not get to read Other Side Picnic like I'd wanted because I was too busy with some other stuff during the break. Big sad. But I'm trying harder to find some time in between other things to do so now, like since yesterday. So that's good, you know. Welcome to die. No, welcome to live. We're here to live. We're here to make a table. How will table get made if we die? Silly. So we're doing that. So last thing I said was I was going to make a I was going to make the table top, which is going to be light blue. Let's see, something like this. That looks good. Also, for those of you oh, hello. Speaking of which, hello, Jody, and all your raiders. Wow, did you guys know that Jody had her two year streaming anniversary today? Wow, so cool, so exciting. Hi, hello to you and all your viewers. Let me change the music. Do this. I want this one to it. There we go. Ow. Hi. But no raid phrase, so I will say Sokolov. Okay. Luke Landvo, thank you very much for following. Welcome. How's the modeling? The modeling is alright. We built a. Jakey was here. Hello, thank you very much for following as well. It was if I can show you. We built floor. That's the thing we did. And then we've been getting to work on this table here. It's a very simple table, but then again, it's all low poly, so you know. And we're about to make the table top, which will be blue. Wow, exciting stuff, I know. But we just got back from our own break, so you haven't missed much since then. I was just gonna explain what we're doing here to anyone who wasn't here before, which I did now. Thanks. Let me very good. What is that at the bottom of the screen? Oh, you mean this? That's from an image entitled "Any girls in here?" Let me quickly This is the full image. It's called Any Girls in Here? So that's good. That's a good image, I think. Let's see. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 1. This is 7. Okay, so that should be like over here. Yes. Okay. So now it should be the same. It's 7. That is also 7. Good. And then we're just gonna, oops, draw the line to some kind of point somewhere. Same here. Okay. I have an egg now. Nice. Let me put it on screen for you. Let's see how many eggs are. Ooh, quite a few actually. Oh, another one. Another 2 more. Okay. Jody, thank you. Muzzle Flesh, thank you as well. Jackie was here. Look, Land V. Oh, I see now. It's not Landvo, it's Land VO. Crimson Flesher. And Screaming Reaction. And finally starting the 3rd egg stack of the day. Kai 4. Thank you all very much for the eggs. Boop, boop. So I tweeted earlier, I looked at your stuff and it makes me feel like I'm in 1996. Nice! Fuck yeah, dude! That's the plan! I'm glad it's all paying off. Thank you very much. Is this right? Yeah, this is right. Okay. Do I want to make this smaller though? Let's see. Yeah, I think I want a bigger border. So let's put it like over here. Eh, fuck it. Does that solve anything? Oops. I actually think, hold on, I think I want it to be even smaller. If I think about it, like over, something like over here. You could probably do fucking math or some shit to calculate this, the exact right size, but I don't care. So I'm not going to do that. Do I want this? Yes. Is correct now? Hold on a second. So this is 10, and this is 11. Or is this also 10? I think it's also 10. I think we're good. Rich Racer moment. I think you mean go vacation moment, but I understand the confusion, mods. Don't worry. All the eggs? Oh, well, another egg. Just wondering if I'd missed any. Bug Wife. Thank you very much for your egg. Okay, how do I do this? I actually think I do this by copy pasting the whole thing and moving it over here. And then going, there we go. And then going, oops, no, because it also has a background and doesn't, or like the gray background, that doesn't work, so I have to do it differently. So I have to, whoops, I have to select it all. Oh, ow! I died. Not yet, although my health is getting rather low. Fucked up. Oh, no. Podcast Queen. That's so much work to switch to that one. Oh, life is torture. And I still haven't given her a fucking icon in VC face. Oh. Jenny! God, I have to get rid of those. Actually, I did see that. I haven't responded to it yet, but Muzz had a very good suggestion of having a very high point reward to give me a temporary debuff. So, like, I take more damage from thrown items. That's actually kind of good. That's me who kills you. Yeah, fair enough. Queen of Fennec, that is basically as much work. But it's too late now. I haven't used Queen of Fennec in a while anyway. I guess I just haven't used most of the models actually since coming back to streaming. It's just been Gauntlet Queen and Gauntlet Queen adjacent models. So this is fun. Leap. Fuck. What the fuck was this file called? Damn it! I have to know the settings that I have to put the hand settings on. I used to be able to pull it up very easily, but I guess it's been too long. There we go. Okay. Ba-ba-bum. At least we've got a really good... Excuse me. At least we've got really good tunes to listen to while I'm doing this. 4.693. Skill point 59. Derek doesn't really care about being in the spotlight that much, but I'm sure he wouldn't mind entertaining y'all for just a moment until I'm back. All right. Hello. I'm here now. Oh wait, one more thing. Setting I have to turn off. That one. Okay, hi. Hello. Scary. Hi Derek, how was your day, Derek? Derek is mute. Sorry, Derek cannot talk. Oops. Okay, move. Nope, don't. Okay. Copy paste. Do this, do that. I'd love to find a setup where I can show you guys both the Blender and the Pixel program, but that's a little hard to get that consistent, I'm afraid. Would temporarily removing models you don't have the energy for from the roulette be an option? I mean, I guess I could just like keep redoing just re-rouletting until I get one that's not as much of a hassle. But it doesn't matter. If I don't want to switch my model at all, then I'll just turn off those redeems altogether. Okay, okay, Derek seems to be having a good time. I think so. Derek enjoys wearing hats. Okay, so let's see. How do I get this right? This is hard to do. Oops. 9. Okay, so this has to be 1 to the side. Oops. And then this should be good. Haha, no, it super isn't. How's it super not though? It super should be. This doesn't make sense. How is this possible? Oh, it does make sense, and it is possible, and it is correct, actually. Never mind, all is well in the world. What? Everything is scary in the world. I'm scared. I'm just a little creature. Don't do that to me. That was metaphorical. I'm not actually little. I'm average height. I'm taller than Sonic. Fuck are you? Okay, so like this. I think I have to do it like this. Wow, yeah, mambaleo, mambalina, caperina, caperina. Wow, yeah, mambaleo, mambalina. Good. Okay, and then we fill it in, and we turn on the UV, and there we go.
Egg.
Egg. Just a moment. Okay. Good. Sure. Nice start. Esteemed Jester, thank you very much for your egg. Heel erg bedankt. Daar gaan we een lekker grote omelet mee maken na de stream. Maar nu nog niet. Eerst gaan we nog even hiermee werken. Nou, even kijken hoor. Even denken wat ik wil. Oké, ik ga een beetje een soort van licht... Ga het zeg maar licht laten geven. Dus dan doen we een lichtere kleur rond de zijkanten. Helemaal daar naartoe. There you go. Actually, gonna make a slightly. Actually, okay. No, I think the color is the light is mostly gonna be coming from the corners, so we'll make it even brighter. Is that brighter? That's even brighter. Very good. Although now the contrast between the white and the blue becomes a little unclear. What do I... Oh no, you can still see that if I add this to it. Yeah, that's fine. Go. Just a little more here, and then a faded color like that. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. Let's see. And then we're going to do this, I think. Or are we? Doesn't look quite as I would like yet, I think. Let's see. It's over there in that corner. Keep it for now. We'll see if how I like it once we're further along. Put that in this. Why are you incorrect? Oh, you're not. You're right. You're completely correct, and you're awesome, and you're right, and I did it correctly. And you're not. Wait. That's just because. That's just because I put a pixel there that I didn't put over here. That's all. That's all, chat. Don't worry. I wish I had the RAM to do anything in Blender because it would be fun to follow along like a Bob Roth stream with MS Paint. That is actually a very cute concept. I feel like painting is a bit easier than blendering, because for blendering it's a lot more precise, you know? When you're painting a tree, you know, it's not to say that painting isn't hard or anything, but it's just brush strokes. Anyone can do that, you know? And even if you do it differently, it can still look quite nice. But like if you do a Blender thing differently, you might just be doing it wrong and it won't work. So I don't know if that would be as effective, you know? But it is a cute concept. Who knows, maybe one day. Okay, hold on. One, two. There we go. Bob Ross Queen is a valid alt name, that is true. Yeah, it's a lot more technical. I don't know how well it would work. But it would be cute if it did. Alright, now we're going to make the side. Let's get this color involved. I think it mostly becomes cute to do together during this stage, you know, the texturing stage when it's just putting down colors. It would be hard to do a follow along type thing unless you actually go professor mode. Teacher Queen. Also a valid alt name. I don't know how good of a teacher I would be, to be fair. Better than some, probably. Not quite what I was... Well, that's fine actually if I do this. Make it Smaller. No, 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 no. No, 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 no. There. That's good. Okay. Copy paste, or that's not what I'm doing, but now it is. Like so. Vertical. There we go. Do we go? Is that going? I guess it's going. No, I can't say I'm quite feeling this. Currently doing this in Substance myself, so I guess I am joining in. Fun. It is always very fun when I'm doing a work stream like this, and then someone's like, I also am working, and I'm like, oh yay! You know? I've been doing different Blender stuff during the stream, though. It's still vibing away. Yeah, exactly. Nice. Alright, let's see. Yeah, that works better. Alright. Also, since it is sideways, I'm gonna go like this. Yes, that's good. Because here's the thing: if you do this, right? If you have a line like this, and then if you like this, it actually looks better if you make the side, if you make the diagonal, I don't know, the sideways one 2 pixels wide. It fits better that way, in my experience. Maybe not so much if you have one line, but if you have multiple lines, it helps to get the width correctly if you make the sideways line one pixel more at least than the flat line. Am I making sense? I think I'm making sense. I guess you hold on. I forgot you guys couldn't see the Pixar program. I'm talking about this. I'm talking about this shit. See? If you look at it like this, it's not the same. It's not the same width. But then if you add another line, see, because this is 2 pixels. This is 2 pixels right now. But if you make this 3 pixels, then the width works better. Ooh, you know? Just a little tip from me to you. I'm like some sort of teacher queen or something. All right. Okay, so that's that. I like that better. That conveys like a bit of depth. I'm gonna do something here. Smaller. If I do that, does that look nice? That does look nice. Good. Man, y'all are exploding all over the place. Yeah, that makes sense. Cool. I'm glad. See, is it too much? Yes. Yes, Blender, it's true. I'm doing Blender. Okay. So we got that. What if I do this? Yes, it is better. So I'm gonna do that on all sides. Okay, so that's, I think that's, those corners are nice, but we want this to look more like a like a glass surface, I think. So I'm going to try to do that. Try to be simple about it. Just gonna... Okay. Good start. Yeah, it should be good. Okay. And then a thinner one further down. Come on. There we go. Alright, it looks like a glass shine, I'd say. Although, of course, we can make it a little bit nicer still. Like so. This kind of stuff. Actually, I think if I then do another one of these here. No, maybe not. Hold on. How did I do it for the Windows? When are they gonna get Xbox controller support for the bots? What do you mean? You guys control them with your fucking minds, dude. Is that not good enough for you? Oh wait, I know. These ones. Hello. Ooh, now look at how I did that. Oh, that is nice. The gradient and stuff. Mwah. Ah, very nice. Very good. I did good job on that. I amaze myself sometimes with how good I do things sometimes. Wow, wow, wow. What a nice windows and stuff. Alright, so, okay, right, that's how I did it, of course. Go back here. So what I actually did was this. The white is the prominent color. And then... How did I do it? I already forgot, go back. Yeah, that's nice! That is good, right, Chad? Yeah, that's very good. See, that's how it's done. Let's go back. How did I do it? Fuck! God, my stupid brain. I think... fuck. Okay, internalize. Don't... Okay. Uh-huh. Yes. It's over here, and this one over here. Okay, that's okay. Okay. This time I won't fuck up. There we go. You can kind of see it. Sure. I think I want to make that a... Is this it? I'm failing to rekindle the magic. I can't reclaim it. Wait, I know. I just have to make it bigger. If something doesn't look good, you just have to make it bigger. That's how it always works. More is better and all that. I think if I just... Oh. This is also on a much smaller resolution. I feel like the resolution is just too big of the table. But that would mean that the resolution of the couch is too big. And putting these two side by side, I guess it is. The texture on the couch is much larger than that on the shipping container. Oops. That's not great, but I guess it's whatever. Just don't look at it, chat. Okay, wait, hold on. Let me look at the floor. Yeah, that's also much. Yeah, Well... Oh well, I guess. Look at what Muzz? Nothing. Don't worry about it, Muzz. Nothing at all. Okay, so the colors. Let me look at the colors. Alright, okay. Can't really make it more saturated. Oh, okay, this kind of works actually. One more here. Sure. Uncertain what to think of this. Let's get a slight darker blue here. Let's see. This. What was it? 5? 1, 2, 3. Yes. This. See, now I'm being like clever about it. Now I'm using little tricks to determine where it's supposed to go. I'm being so smart. I'm like some sort of professional or something. It's like I studied this for 4 years or something. Alright. Okay, just gotta bridge the gap. There we go. Over here. Go here, do that. Click on things, hit buttons. Produce art. Hey! Did actually already. If I do this. Huh, is that actually less nice than? I think that might actually. I think this is nice. I think this is better. Okay, maybe if I hold on, have color. Yes. Alright, okay, we're getting somewhere. What if I make this shit semi-transparent? Ah, okay. So this color is that. This color is that. This is the same one of these colors, I guess. Yeah, okay. Alright, so then do this. This is too semi-transparent. Hold on. See, like I told you guys, it's very nice when it starts to come together, you know? It's very satisfying. Go here. Les artistes. I am the artist. I am very artistic. My work is truly worthy of admiration and appreciation. Do you not know? That is how it is, oui. Alright. Then... Wait, what do I need? Okay, I need... no, what? Fuck, okay. Do this. No, not that. Do this. No, wait, what am I doing? It's all wrong. No, I fucked it up. Oh, no. I mean, I didn't. I mean, the idea is still good, but... Okay, hold on. Let me just... Okay, take this color here. Here. Take this color. This color. It's literally the same, okay. Oh, of course, because it's the same color. I have hiccups. This is terrible. Oh, fuck. I'm gonna die, chat. I'm so sorry. These are my final moments. I think the hiccup is already over. I think crisis averted and all that. Yeah, this is working. This is gonna look really good. It's so real, chat. It's gonna be awesome. I'm so excited. Yeah, yippee yo, etc. Okay, and then this, or maybe. Yippee! Is this enough? Maybe. I guess this kind of gets the idea across. I mean, if I were to do much, it might just be, or if I did more, it might just be too much. I think that's too much. That's too much. I think we're done. You gotta know when to, you know, quit while you're ahead, you know? Da-dun, 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 da-dun. Let's see, is that good? Yes, it is. Yes, it is. It's good, it's nice. It's coming together, chat. It's fucking yay. Fucking yay, yeah, yay, yahoo, etc. Now what if I... Let's see. Random idea, but what if I were to do something along these lines? Let's see, this is 8. No. At least not yet, because I'm still doing the rest of the texture, of course. We'll leave the blue stuff alone for now, and we're gonna go start adding some more things to the rest of the design. Let's see. Cool. Yes. 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 Yeah, dude. But what if I did it just 1 pixel to the side? Yes, dude. Yes. Yeah. I'm doing a good job. What if I did it 1 more pixel to the side? Yes, dude. Yeah. I don't know if this is as yes. This might be a little bit much actually. I think we've tempted fate too much. Yes! Yes! Like that! That's what I need! That's what I want! Fuck yeah, dude! Alright, okay, so we got that. Gonna do the same thing here. Oops. Do it here as well. Oops. Oops. There we go. That's fucking nice. I think that's looking very good so far. That's starting to look like a little sci-fi table doohickey, you know? Thank you, Jet. Thank you so much. And thank you so much for using the Alice emote. Very good, very good, very good. We love Rose Claws, hell yeah. Do I wanna fuck with this a little? Do I wanna put some bullshit here? A little bit of bullshit. Just a little bit. Chat, what do we think? Is it too much? Is this too much? What's better? What do we like better? With or without? Bit much. I think it works as is. Maybe a bit, yeah. I think maybe what I want to do is just move these ones to the middle more. I don't know. Maybe not. Maybe it's fine. I'll leave it for now. Okay. Okay, so got that. Got this. We got some other stuff. Things are happening. Things are going on. Things are happening. They're happening. So we're gonna put it on the side, which would be kind of tough. Where do we put those? Like over here? Do we put them here? Oh! You are wrong and incorrect and such. I should have done a better job when UV unwrapping you. First off. Okay, yeah, you're definitely stretched out. Okay, hold on. Let me move this. Let's see. Okay, if I put pixel line down here, no, more like here, and then I will flip you. There we go. We can see that you're still wrong. So more like this? No, definitely not. Like this? Maybe a little more. See, this is the part where I hate UV unwrapping. Why can't you just be easy? Why can't you just be normal? Actually, hold on a second. Did I ever snap the pixels? Yes, I did. Very good. Of course I did, because it's like the big... Never mind. Did that ages ago, because this is where I make all my assets in one fucking scene. That's probably not how you should be doing it. But oh well. Tis how it is done. I guess it's good enough. Although... No, that's far too noticeable! Everything's fucked! All our hard work! Oh, I did it. I fixed it, gang. No worries. Everything is good and cool forever. Let's also get the other one looked at into the other sides while we're at it. Because yippee! Because those also don't really feel correct. Alright, let's see. So that's these ones. Good. Okay, fixed. So let me just make sure that y'all are... Oh yikes, you are intersecting, bud. Don't do that, friend. Please. Okay, but somehow I can rotate you and you stay flat this time. Which will fucking take. Put you over here. There we go. And then we're going to UV... export the UV layout again. Coffee table UV. Export. And then give you guys a good view of it again. Very nice. Hooray for y'all. Folder. Nope, that's the wrong thing. Coffee table. There we go. Copy paste. Go on this thing and there we go. All right. I sure do love describing a bunch of shit vaguely that you guys cannot see at all for y'all's convenience. Okay, so now I'm gonna put the camera right here. Does that connect? As a matter of fact, yes, it does. So it's like that, huh? I don't understand. I understand completely. I feel like you don't. But I hope you do. Is there one more? One more to the side. There we go. Nope, I was wrong. There we go. And we're gonna do the same for this one. I'm assuming it's like this. And I am wrong. And I'm wrong twice. There we go. On this side. Alright, good. Theater of the Mind is fun, yeah. It's an underrated part of D&D. Some people, they're like, oh, battle maps. And it's like, you don't need those. It's alright. You got stuck? Oh, shit. Oh, woo. Realizing I'm falling asleep because the vibes are very much cheerful and so relaxing and so nice. They really are during these streams. It's so true. I freed you, Lucina. Alright. Gonna have the bottom. Okay, first things first. I think I'm gonna do a little wacky thing here. I hope I can. Let's see, should be over here. Yes. Okay, so we got that, and then let's try. Does that look good? Yeah, pretty good. I'll do some aliasing there, or anti-aliasing rather. Sometimes I need a grid. I need to know how big my lightning ball is and shit. Grid? Were we talking about grids? Were we talking about grids? Did I say something about grids? I don't remember. I feel like I'm doing something wrong. Oh, my memory fails me once again. I don't remember what a grid is. Oh, battle maps. Right, okay, fair enough. Oh yeah, because you said Shadowrun. Sorry, you said Shadowrun. Isn't that also the name of like a Final Fantasy XIV expansion? I always get them confused now. There's nothing wrong with battle maps, but I think it's nice to not use them sometimes. Also, I'm noticing something. This isn't correct. Shadowbringers. Ah, there you go. You're wrong. You're all messed up, dude. How is this? Why? Could you not be? Uh-oh. Oh, shit. I fucked something up somewhere down the line, I think. But what if I just did this and it wouldn't really matter that much, I don't think. I think it'd be okay if I just did this and nobody would care. It's fine, it's okay. It's alright. So then I just go like, whoo! And everything is normal. Yay! Yay, yay. I am thinking about Shadow the Hedgehog, that's right. I was thinking about the ultimate... Damn, not here. I was thinking about the ultimate life form. Me, Shadow the motherfucking Hedgehog. Watch me hit the gritty. And then he flops over and dies. Shadowrun is TJPG, that's all sci-fi fancy. I know what it is, yeah, I know. I just get the names confused. So like you were talking about Shadowrun and I thought you were talking about Shadowbringers. So I was like, wait, what, how's that relate to this? You know, it's, you know. Bum, 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 bum. Bum, ba-dum, bum, bum. Also, I agree, Cloud is a twunk, it's true. He already had muscle in the original, it just wasn't as defined because of the graphics. It's something that people forget. Or just didn't notice, or whatever. But he did have muscle, it is real. It is true. It's just that when people think about the remake, most of the time people think about like the little chibi character and not about like his in-game battle model. Am I doing this right? Well, we'll find out when I'm done. Alright, let's have a look. So far so good, so far bad, and so far also bad, and so far so good. Okay, so let's see, is it over here? Yes, it is. Okay, good. Go here. There we go. Now let's see what it looks like from the sides. I think I fucked this up. I think I shouldn't have done it like this, but maybe it's fine actually now that I think about it. Because if I just do this. Yeah, I figured these might be upside down. Oh, they're all upside down even. How wonderful. Actually, how about this one? Oh, okay, the sides are not, the corners are not upside down. Oops, nope, not all of them. Just these. Thanks. What happened to you? What the hey, what, huh? 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 Why are you like this? Fucker. Bitch. Be normal. No? Come back. Come on. No, the other... What? Huh? 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 What? Huh? What? Okay, hold on. Just be normal. Thank you. Okay. So these four get... Okay, wait. First these two, flip. Then these two, flip. Alright, okay, there we go. Now it's nice. Shoo! But no! Why is one of them still flipped? There we go. And now it's all nice. Whew. Phew. Observation number 451. Swearing at programs and textures fixes them. This is true. However, physically assaulting your machinery will not fix them, no matter how much one of my dorm mates in college thought that. Would just like constantly beat up their PC and then come to me and be like, my PC isn't working, and then like takes me into their room and I'm like, what's wrong with it? And then shouts like, it doesn't fucking work, as he's actively kicking his computer. Like, of course, what the fuck is wrong with you? Of course that's not gonna fix it. And I tell him, hey, maybe you shouldn't physically assault your computer. I don't think that's gonna help. And he's like, well, then if it didn't want to be physically assaulted, maybe it should just fucking work. And it's like, what is... what? Huh? Are you like not okay or something? What's happening? I appreciate how they designed Cloud for a remake. He's a pretty boy, but they made it clear that he does work out and can probably bench you. And also, he's so readable as trans girl, but it's probably not intentional. Probably not, but oh, are there mods? There are not enough mods. I've talked about this before. There are plenty of mods that put him in a dress. There's a mod that changes the pronouns, which even has a separate version of it, where it only changes the pronouns in current time, but not in flashbacks, and does change her name in modern time to also be Claudia, which I don't think you needed. I mean, I saw like a different mod for the original for the PC port of the original game that changes Claudia's name to Skye, like Skye. That's a pretty name. That's a really good name, Claudia. Skye. Ooh, that is such a fucking pretty name, and it's fitting because Cloud, you know, and like Cloud was the original name, and then she came out and was like her full self. And what's a bunch of clouds? You know, a full clouds is a sky. Wow, that's so good. I love it, you know? But yeah, there's a bunch of mods for the remake that put clouds in dresses and stuff. And there's only one, I've talked about this before, there's only one that makes it's like just like a full-on girl conversion physically. And come on, why did you take the muscle away? Why did you just twig arms? Like, come on, stupid, bad. Anyway, Skye is a very good name. I could see myself being called Skye. I'm not. I'm called Zoe, but you know, it's possible. What was I doing? I was making a thing. Let's see. Let's see. This is a little bit darker. Good. So let's get that over here. Bum bum bum. Da da da. Da, da, da. Da, da, da. Da, da, da. Da, da, da. Okay.
No.
That's a really nice looking table. Thank you. Looks like something I haven't seen in a Pokemon game on the DS or something. Good vibes. I appreciate that. Thank you. I hate when people back off on entirely muscle for female characters, to be honest. Yeah, me too, of course. That shit sucks. If you have a character, if you have a male character with a certain body type and you make a girl version of that character, like literally just a gender bent version, obviously she should have the same body type. This is not hard to grasp, and if you don't do that, you're fucking stupid. And a misogynist. There, a little bit of detail. Whoa! What happened? Life was so good. Huh? I fixed it. But wait. But that means... Does that mean anything? Yeah, that means something. Hold on. Well, whatever. Not gonna care. The whole point of Cloud is that they're buff. People know immediately that they're a soldier for a reason. You look at a twiggy girl and the eyes aren't gonna convince you that she's dangerous. She's gotta be muscular. I agree. You're right. Well, I just woke up. Well, it's short. Stop! No, I'm not short. Average height. Average height for a Sonic character. Fuck off. I'm normal. It's not my fault I live surrounded by a bunch of people from a race that's taller than I am now. I'm normal height. I'm so normal, chat. You don't even know. I'm more normal. I am more normal than you will ever know. You can't even comprehend how normal I am. I'm normal, I shout as I psychic blast some things across the room. I'm normal! I am. Sonic weighing down near your waist or something over that tongue. At least someone's got my back, thank you. I'm not that much taller than Sonic, but alright. There we go. What next? Let's see. We've got this. Okay, alright. I love this song so much. Like, I love the Valhalla soundtrack as a whole. It's just such a good soundtrack, but something about this specific song just really gets to me. Also the title, You've Got Me. It's so nice. Such a good soundtrack, such a good game. It's so nice. No. Oh, that's actually kind of cute. Hey, that looks nice. Look at that. Look like at the overlap, the synergy. I don't know, between like this shit and that shit. Oh, that's so good. I like it. Very nice. That fucking works, dude. Hey, wow, look at us go. This table's so fucking cool. Ow. This is the coolest fucking table in existence, dude. This table does backflips. Oh yeah. Oh yeah, that's where it's at. That's fucking good. Let's go. Let's go, chat. Hell yeah. I'm not gonna lie, I thought it was a bathtub for a while. No, clearly it doesn't have the depth for that. Come now. How would I make a bathtub without it actually making a... Well, it doesn't matter, because I'm making a table. This is a table of all time. Also, hello, Lord Simapple. Hello. Yes, it's a table. Excellent shapes. Thank you so much. Alright, let's see. We've got that. Now I'm gonna make a little thing here. Because it's some sci-fi nonsense, so you need a little panel. I do the panel on this one. That looks like small, right? If the water is all frozen, maybe. I don't know what your heating situation's like. Warm enough. I'd say it's warm enough. I should hope. Okay, let's see. What do they have on the table, on the couch? Have it like that. Yeah, alright, yeah, sure. There we go. It's nice. I'm gonna do a little thing here. Okay, good. And let's do this just to see. Oh, yes, that's everything. Oh, mamma mia. Oh, the special spicy sauce, the secret ingredient. Yeah. That's so much, dude. Oh, it's so good. That's what I fucking love about this shit, dude. You just have that one little thing that you add and you're like, oh, that brings everything together, dude. That makes it look so much nicer. It defines the shape so well. Oh man, I'm fucking alive, dude. I could fight a bear. Fuck yeah, dude. Yeah. I love this. It's so good. Yippee! Yippee! All right, let me try something else that I think will look nice. This is like sometimes 3D modeling can be pretty tough. And then something like this happens and you're reminded like, oh yeah, this is why I do this, because it makes me feel fucking incredible when I make something really nice looking, you know?
Egg.
Windows Millennium Edition, thank you very much for the egg. I'm also missing one other, which is from Rootsatera. Apologies for missing that one, but thank you regardless. There we go. What? Oh. Hold on.
Egg.
Another one. Vex! Fidel! Thank you very much for your egg also. Oh my god! Mamma mia! Wow! Oh, fuck! Ow! Ow! Oh, sol mio! Etc. Okay, let's see. Oh man, the hiccups. And I don't stop coming, and I don't stop coming, and I don't stop coming, and I don't stop coming. I think these little white lines along the edges are also really gonna look very, very nice. I should see if I've done the same thing with the couches, because if I haven't, then I still should. Oh yeah, dude! I gotta get the corners still, of course, but that also does such a good job of defining the shape. Low poly is the best. No other art style comes fucking close when it comes to like 3D, dude. Low poly is it. This is where it is at. Mamma mia, cunt. All right. Let's see. Ba-ba-bum. Bum-bum-bum. Let's see, does that work? Yes, it does. But if I were to do this, I don't think it would anymore. No. Ah, you're wrong! Oh, damn it. Okay, well, we'll just leave it. No, it looks bad. No, not that I notice it. No, my beautiful work, my perfect creation. Oh, wait, it's because I did it wrong. Is it? No. What? Yeah, I noticed it now. Damn it. Okay. Something went wrong during the UV mapping. If I just do this, will that ruin everything? Yes. Yes, it will. As a matter of fact, it already doesn't seem quite right. It's because of this? No? Can't be this, can it? Well, I guess it is. That's annoying. Well, damn. Shh. shit. What if I do this? Guess it's kind of okay, but if I do both of them... What am I changing here? I'm changing this. I guess that'd be okay, but then it's the asymmetry. No, it's kind of. Oh wait. Oh no, now it's asymmetrical. Look, it was fucked up before. See the little light blue here, and it's also over here. It was fucked up, and now we fixed it. The world is saved. Thanks to the purple girls and all that good stuff. Cool. And I can do this. And it still looks good. Except for over... What the fuck is this? What the... Huh? What? Huh? What? Huh? What is... Huh? What is wrong with you? Why are you different? Why are you different? What happened? Huh? Oh, wait. Is this because... Oh. Right, okay. No problem, Chad. Don't worry. There. Now everything is good and the world is safe. What? Huh? What? Huh? Still something so fucking funny about Queen of Phoenix, just only eyes and maybe nose. You can't blame it, so we're all different. That's true. What the fuck? No, why are you different? No, that's normal. That is normal, that is expected, or at least it should have been expected. It's easily explainable. So that is this shit. Nope, it's this shit. Yep. And the world is saved by the Zoe. It's me, hello. Alright, so then we just take this. Move it over here. Oops. Do this with it, and it should look good. I'm being paranoid. I think it looks good. It's good. It's fine. Do the same thing over here. And once more. There we go. That looks very nice. These lines too short. Should I fix this? Is everything broken forever? Is this better? Or is it? Is it better? No, it's worse. I was doing it right. I'm getting too in my head. I'm getting in my head about this. I made a great table. I made a beautiful table. It rules. It's the best. Everyone will love it and not use coasters and stuff. And it'll be awesome. And the world will rejoice, for there is a cool table in the world now. And I made it. And oh, I just had a good idea. Yes. Oh, I'm a genius. I'm very smarty pants about it. I guess it kind of works. Hold on a second. Let me try a little bit harder. Yes, a little bit of depth. Just a little bit of depth. Just a bit. Not too much. Just enough. Just a little bit of depth. Get your damn ears out of the way. You can't fucking. Hey, that's don't talk about my ears like that. Come on. That's very rude. I have beautiful ears, and they allow me to hear very well and dissipate heat. Also, regulate my heat, my body heat. I have good ears. There's a beautiful fluffy and also in the damn way. Fair enough. Here you go. Another a little bit less in the way. Actually, it might be more in the way. I guess it's up to you to decide where And also glide for medium distances from elevated perch with a favorable wind. I haven't tried that yet, but now I'm curious. Now I wonder if I could. Bum bum ba dum ba da ba ba bum ba dum bum bum. Bum ba ba dum ba da ba ba bum ba 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 da bum. Da 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 da. Searching for colors, searching for colors. Can't really find an even darker color. This is the darkest. No, wait, we do have one more dark color, which we'll put right here. Wait, yes? I guess that works to create some more depth. What else did I do for couch for that stuff? Not much. That's kind of it. And it worked, so I guess. Oh, I know what I have to do. Well, something that I can do anyway. Can I do it? Is there any places for me to do that? Yeah, there is actually a place for me to do that. I'll do it like so. That does something. Bam, bam, bam. Any other moments where I can, any bits where I can try doing that? It's one thing I can try. Up over upon yonder edge of where the glass starts. At this point, I'm just trying stuff out. Like, the table is more or less done, but, you know, maybe I can add some more specific little detail that'll enhance it. Okay. There's something to that. What do we think, chat? What do we think of having these white lines along the inner rim of the table? Edge, whatever the fuck. I think it does look good. I think it you know, helps add some depth again. And as when you have a low poly model, you need all the help you can get to add some depth, you know? Looks neat. It's a small touch, but it's good. Right? I think it's nice. I think it's good. Let's see. Do I maybe change the color to this one to a lighter white? Yeah, now it's a little bit more subtle still. I think this is nice. I think this is quite good. What color did I use for this? I used a different color. What am I doing? Is this the same color? No, it's different. Okay, wait, so let me do this and then replace color. Oops. Cancel. Ow. Ow. Okay, other way around. Here we go. Place color. No, what? Oh, right, duh. Okay, well, let's just undo that then. Okay. I think the table's just about done then. Hell yeah. Wow. A whole stream just to make a floor and a table. I'm so good at this. I mean, last time we didn't even, I don't think we even finished the entire couch in one stream, so at least we finished something. I just gotta do this more so I can become better at it. Wait, I'm missing a crucial element. Well, I don't know if it's crucial, but I'm missing a thing I want to have, which is to put a thing. Let's see, where would it be? Like here? Almost. There we go. Let's see, 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. Does this work? Yes, it does. Good. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. Cool. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. Yeah, sure, that connects. It's on the other side, so I'm not as bothered if it doesn't connect quite properly. Do this. There we go? No. Oh, almost. I think. Where am I going wrong? Hold on. What are you? Where? Okay, you're this bit. Okay, right. Don't worry, I got it. There we go. Now it's all perfect. Yay! It's high quality table, thank you. It's the crucial element, a piece of gum stuck to the underside. No, gross! I won't do that, come on. Masterful craftsmanship, thank you. I think I might have already read that one, I know. This is some good jaggies, thank you, just like a Monster Hunter. I like the little handle thing on the side, so I like to imagine there are shelves full of snacks in there. How cute! Yeah, there are, I've decided. That's where you keep things. I was thinking that's where you keep the mechanics of the table, like the lights and whatever, and maybe it does hologram stuff so you can play board games on it. But yeah, also it's where you keep the snacks for sure. Definitely. Alright, the table is done. So we are going to apply all transforms to it again. And then we will move it over here next to the couches. Over that one. Hooray! They look really nice together. So then we're gonna copy it and put it into the living room. Close this folder. Move you over here. Realize that I in fact just deleted the blockout table instead of copying it, but that's okay. That's all right, I guess. We've got this now. So let's see. Oh, I didn't. Hey. Wow, everything has gone so well today. How wonderful. Oops. How wonderful. Why are you smaller than the table is? Oh, because the castle is a little bit higher than the 0. That's right. I gotta say, yeah, they look. Oh, they look so good together. That's awesome, dude. I love creating. I love being creative and shit, and making stuff and making art and things. Yeah, dude, this is awesome. This is so cool. 10 out of 10 table would put a coaster under my glass on it. That is the highest honor. That is the highest praise you can give to a table. Thank you so much, Devil Pencil. Thank you. Thanks so much. All right. So beautiful couches, beautiful floor, beautiful table. We've done a wonderful job today, everyone. Thank you. And we'll be calling it quits here for today. Next time, we might make the balcony, or we might make the thing upon which sit a TV. Carpet. Perchance. Whomst is to say, you know? Also, we can hide the coffee table now. There we go. It's a total mystery what's gonna happen next, but we'll do it together. I've been considering, I don't know if I will yet, but I've been considering having a specific, like an earlier day stream once a week, every time, like on a specific time, a specific day, to do some castle work, just so we can do more of it, because it's kind of my best time to like focus on it, you know? But I don't know yet, because I'm a busy girl, you know? But maybe I might end up doing that if I can. Anyway, this has been very, very fun. I'm gonna forget, get couches. There's a lot of fucking containers. There we go. Cool. This is so awesome. I love creating. Yay, yay, yippee. But yes, thank you guys so much for coming and joining, and I hope you had a nice time hearing me ramble about my creative process and all that good stuff. And also about girls and about Cloud a little bit and stuff. If you want to stay up to date what I'm gonna do, blah blah blah, exclamation point links in chat, and you get a link that leads to my little website. There's all my links on there, and you can find it all there. The Discord is the best place to stay updated what I'm gonna do, because you get an ad here when I go live. But you don't have to join the whole community if you don't want to. I totally understand. That's a big commitment or whatever that not everybody wants to do. So you don't have to do that. All you have is the announcements channel for the streams and a stream explaining how to get into the full server if you want to, but no pressure whatsoever. My next stream will be on Saturday. I will be continuing Signalis, which I am very excited about. I've done one stream of it now and I loved it. So we're gonna do more of that. Yeah, I hope you guys all liked this stream. It's been wonderful. I love when people, you know, when I'm just like I'm making my silly little models and then people come to watch. It's very nice. Now, let me find someone to raid. Choop, choop, choop. Let's go ahead and raid. We are going to raid Trex, who I haven't raided in quite a while, a real pup, is their username. They are a fellow member of RARXZ like myself. Very nice, also doing some artwork, which they are very, very good at. The raid message will be, we fucking love creating and creative endeavors and art. This will be the raid message. Because it's so true. I feel it in my heart. Go. So yeah. I hope you guys have a wonderful rest of your day. And I will see you guys next time. Bye everyone. Thanks for coming. Bye bye bye.